Okay, tomorrow we have our test over this second unit, which is about multiplying and dividing rational numbers, so fractions, decimals, or fractions and decimals together. So let's go ahead and look at number one. Which expression is equivalent to 2/5 divided by 2/3? If you look at your answer choices, they're not wanting you to actually work out the problem. They're just looking to see if you know the strategy for dividing fractions, which you can find on page 10 in your notebook. And remember that that strategy is keep, change, flip, or KCF for short. So we know we want to keep the 2/5 exactly the same. These three down here do that, but this one right here does not have 2/5. So we know we can get rid of answer choice A. The change is changing from division to multiplication, which they all do except for this one right here. That kept it as division, so we can get rid of that one. And then flip means we're flipping that fraction to its reciprocal. And remember that that just means that the numerator becomes the denominator and the denominator becomes the numerator. So we already know this isn't our answer, but if we weren't sure, we know now because they didn't flip the fraction to its reciprocal. This one also did not flip the fraction to its reciprocal. But this one right here did all three things correctly. It kept the first fraction, it changed to multiplication, and it flipped the second fraction to its reciprocal. So C would be our answer. Number two is a word problem. These are the ones we've been working so hard on. So I have two page numbers here. Page 13 is because remember on the left-hand side of page 13, we talk a lot about how to know if the problem is multiplying or dividing. So let's look at this problem. There was 3/8 of a pie left in the fridge. Daniel ate 1/3 of the leftover pie. How much of a pie did he eat? So we know how much he had to begin with, and then we know he ate 1/3 of that. So remember that if you see a fraction followed directly by the word of, it has to be right after the fraction. There's a really good chance that that is a multiplication problem because a fraction of something is multiplying by that fraction. So on page 9, you do have your rules for multiplying fractions. So we're doing 3/8 times 1/3. 3 times 1 is 3, and 8 times 3 is 24. If we look at our answer choices, that is not an answer choice, and that's because we still need to simplify. The only thing I can divide 3 by is going to be 3, and that does go into 24 evenly. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, 24 divided by 3 is 8, so that means he ate 1/8 of the pie. If you were to divide, you're going to get a bigger answer. I think it's actually answer choice B is what it would come out to here, if I'm remembering correctly. And that doesn't make sense that he would eat a whole pie and another eighth of a pie because there wasn't even that much to begin with. So make sure that even if you mess up with your operation, that you're looking to see if your answer makes sense. If it doesn't, there's a good chance you chose the wrong operation. Question number 3 is not a word problem, but it is a problem with a fraction and a decimal in the same problem, which we talked about on page 13. So remember that it's easiest to change them both to decimals, and a lot of times your answer choices are going to be both decimals, which is the case on the test. So you want to change this fraction, 3 1/5, to a decimal. Don't forget that the 3 is not going to change. A lot of y'all have been doing MAD and then Tylo. That's extra work for no reason because it's going to be 3 point something. So really we just need to figure out what 1/5 is as a decimal. One way is that we can remember the little saying about our fingers. Our fifths are like our fingers, 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8. So 1/5 is just going to be one finger, 0.2. So it's 3.2. If you're not sure about that, you could do Tylo. Top in, bottom out. Don't forget to put a decimal and a 0 after the inside number. 5 can't go into 1, but it can go into 10 2 times. And so we got that same answer of 0.2. Either way, as long as you know that that's 3.2, then you can go ahead and set up your multiplication. Remember that the 2.75 has to go on top because it has more digits. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Placeholder 0. times 5 is 15. 3 times 7 is 21, plus 1 is 22. And 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. I want to add those two lines together. I get this, but I need to see where my decimal point is going to go. So we count. There's 1, 2, 3 decimal places in the problem. So there needs to be 1, 2, 3 decimal places in the answer. You can leave these extra zeros. They don't hurt anything, but you don't need them. So technically our answer here would be 8.8. Question 4 says, which statement about 2 multiplied by 1/2 must be true? So if it's talking about something being multiplied, the easiest thing for us to do is to actually multiply those together. And again, page 9 has multiplying fractions. So if we have a whole number like 2, we have to give it a denominator of 1. 2 divided by 1, same thing as 2. We're multiplying that times 1/2. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. But remember, 2 out of 2, or 2 divided by 2, that's just 1 whole. So the answer comes out to 1 whole. Down here I see that it says the product is between 2 and 3. 1 whole is not between 2 and 3, because that would mean that it's bigger than 2 and not as big as 3. That's not true. This one says the product is greater than 3. 1 is definitely not greater than 3. B says the product is less than 1/2. A whole is bigger than a half, not less than a half, so that's not true either. And then A says the product is between 1/2 and 2. So remember, that means it's bigger than 1/2, but not as big as 2. And that is true. 1 whole is bigger than a half, but it is not as big as 2. So A is our answer for that. Question 5 is another word problem. So again, I noted that on page 13, you can think about those word problems and how we know if we're supposed to multiply or divide. So let's look at this one. It says Melissa has 3.5 gallons of lemonade. So 3.5 gallons is kind of a lot of lemonade. So I'm picturing that in a pretty big container. And then she's going to pour it into 7 cups to share with her friends. How much lemonade will each friend receive? Okay, so I'm going to draw something here, and I'm not an artist, but here's her lemonade. She's pouring it into 7 different cups. Now, I'm not going to draw all 7, but you get the idea. This lemonade is being separated out into different cups for her friends. So they've given us the total amount that she has, and we know it's being separated into equal groups. So we know that's division, and division of fractions can be found on page 10. So this is going to be 3.5 divided by 7. Don't forget that when you're dividing with a mixed number or multiplying with a mixed number, you have to do math first to turn it into an improper fraction. So 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. That's my numerator. And my denominator stays the same, so 7 over 2. Again, we've got a whole number, so don't forget, if you have a whole number, you're going to give that a denominator of 1. And now we need to do keep, change, flip. So I'm going to keep the 7 over 2, change to multiplication, flip to 1/7. That's the reciprocal of 7 over 1. And then I can go ahead and multiply. 7 times 1 is 7. 2 times 7 is 14. If this were a multiple choice question, that would not be one of your answer choices because it's not in simplest form. 7 and 14 are both divisible by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1, and 14 divided by 7 is 2. So each one of those friends is going to get a half a gallon of lemonade. That is a lot. Okay, question number 6. Dylan purchased beef at the local farmer's market for $17.25. Dylan bought 1.5 pounds of beef. How much did he pay per pound? So again, on page 13, it can help you figure out if you're supposed to be multiplying or dividing. And in this case, they've given us the total amount that he paid. That's what he paid for all of what he bought. It wants to just know how much per pound. So we know how many pounds he bought. If they're giving us the total and they're just wanting to know for 1 pound, 1 pound should cost less than 1.5 pounds. So we need to be dividing to get that smaller amount. So 1725 divided by 1.5. Dividing decimals can be found on page 8 if you need more help with that. But we're not allowed to have a decimal in our divisor. That's this outside number. So we want to go ahead and slide that one over one time. If we slide that one over one time, we have to slide this one over one time. Make sure you don't slide it over all the way to the end, because we do the exact same thing that we did to the outside number. Then we can go ahead and rewrite our problem a little bit neater. And then go ahead and just divide like normal. So I like to cover up the part I'm not working with. So right now, I'm just trying to see how many times 15 goes into 1. 15 is bigger than 1, so it's going to go in 0 times. When I move over, now I'm trying to see how many times 15 goes into 17. That's going to go in 1 time. Okay, so already I can look and see, I can get rid of answer choice A. Because first of all, why would it cost more for 1 pound than it did for 1.5 pounds? That doesn't make sense. But also, it doesn't start with 1, so I know it's not my answer. 15 times 1 is 15. I subtract, I bring down my next number. 15 goes into 22 1 time again. Okay, so again, even without finishing, I can already tell which answer is my answer choice, but let's keep going. 15 times 1 is 15. 22 minus 15 is 7. And then I bring down that last number. 15 goes into 75 5 times. And if you're not sure, you can always try something out to the side. If I did 15 times 4, that would only give me 60. So then I could go, okay, well, maybe it goes in a 5th time. Yes, because that is 75. Okay, now that doesn't look like money. Money has to have 2 digits past the decimal point. So we would have to add an extra 0 on the end, and it would be $11.50. Okay, question number 7. Another word problem. So you see that these word problems are going to be really important for the test. And so again, page 13 is crucial for figuring out whether they're giving us the total and it's being separated out into equal groups, or are they asking us for the total. So in this case, we know how many ounces of coffee beans John bought. We also know the price per ounce. So remember, if it's talking about per ounce, that doesn't have an S on the end. It's just 1 ounce. So we know how much for 1 ounce. He bought more than 1 ounce. So we're looking for how much did he pay. We could add in all on the end of this, right? Or all together. We're looking for the total amount that he paid for all of the coffee beans that he bought. So this is going to be multiplication, which you can find on page 7. I do need to put the $3.95 on top because it has more digits. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 9 is 54, plus 3 is 57. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 5 is 23. Placeholder 0. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 9 is 45, plus 2 is 47. And 5 times 3 is 15, plus 4 is 19. Add those together. And we have to count to see where our decimal place is going to go. So we have 1, 2, 3. We need 1, 2, 3. We can drop that 0 off the end because this is money and we don't need that 0. So he would pay $22.12. Last question. All of the following expressions are equivalent except one. Which one does not belong? So these are all ways of representing division. And remember that we have notes for representing division on page 12. I notice right now this says 32 divided by 4. This also says 32 divided by 4. So that means that one of these right here is also 32 divided by 4. The other one is not. So ways to remember that. From this version to this version, we would need to do top in, bottom out. So that looks good right there. Also, from this version to that long division, the first number goes in and the second number is supposed to stay out. So this one doesn't match. It also doesn't have the top number in and the bottom number out. So this one right here does say 32 divided by 4. So 32 divided by 4, 32 divided by 4, 32 divided by 4. This one says 4 divided by 32. So that is the answer that does not belong. If we wanted to write that in the other representations, we would write that or that. Those two would match that one. But all of these match each other. Okay, I hope that helped, and you can feel free to re-watch parts of the video that you are still unsure about, and I hope you do great on tomorrow's test.